Console, online. HPG connection, online. Educational module, online. All systems, nominal.
Hello, class, and welcome to On the Origin of Battlemechs Podcast, episode 39. And today we are talking about the Koschei. I am your host, Brent Stewart McKee. My co-hosts today are...
I'm Joshua.
And I'm Chandler.
And the Koschei is a 65-ton mech, and in general, this is the Capellan Confederation's second design. And, of course, with their first mech, the Firebee, they had a very solid light mech, but it was no match for larger machines. And Regent Salander observed the need and acted with a decree to Earthworks to build a machine that would fill this need. It is important to note that Earthworks had been building battlemechs for the Terran hegemony for over 30 years, but due to exclusive agreements, the Home Office did not have access to that material or technical know-how. Because of this, the Home Branch relied heavily on engineers based in Tikhnov. The model they made was named after the undying demon of Slavic myth. The Koschei has an impressive speed for its day and proved to be a resilient machine. It is important to note that after Tikhnov was secured by the Capellan Confederation, the line was reactivated, but the Capellan Confederation had little to no interest in the design as it lacked the Xingshang aesthetic, but were able to offload the surplus onto the mercenary market.
And let's be clear, when Brent says when the Capellans reacquired Tikhonov, we're talking about after or during the FedCom Civil War, when the Capellan Confederation was able to retake territory it lost during the Fourth Succession War. This mech was a major part of the Capellan Confederation military up until it was basically the first two models were kind of rendered obsolete during the Star League era.
Yeah, the Capellan Confederation really did a big land grab at the time under the action of peacekeeping forces, of course, because, it's free real estate.
It's free real estate.
So this mech has the design quirks of a improved life support system and also a weak head 1, which, kind of a both sides of the coin sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the art, you've got that really big glass cockpit, and there's only so much you can reinforce that before it gets kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think going back to it didn't fit the Xinshang aesthetic, this mech is ugly as sin.
Yeah, it's desperate need of a facelift.
You know what? I'm going to put it in the same category as the shootist mech, which is, look, don't look at them, just think about their stats and it'll be fine.
Yeah, a different era.
That doesn't really hold for these early models, but, hopefully later on.
Yeah.
One of the things that really gets me here, I mean, the pimple head is bad enough, but the autocannon, so this original Ksc-3l, the first Koshai variant, has two medium lasers in the right torso and an AC-10 in the left arm. That AC-10, its barrel diameter is bigger than the cockpit.
It's bigger than the torso, practically, if you look at it, like, in mass.
Yeah, like, looking at this design, when you see this giant barrel of an arm, which is just the left arm, and it's attached to what appears to be a thick plank that is attached to the center torso. So, like, legitimately, the bore of the autocannon is larger than the torso that feeds into it.
Yeah.
It's like somebody stapled a beer keg to a 2x4.
Pretty much. The only thing I can think of is that either A, this thing fires one gigantic bullet, which I think is kind of funny because you totally get like the Super Mario bullets then. Or B, it recessed in there is like a minigun, effectively. I have to hope it's the second one because not even space physics can save this.
I mean, I could see that, but that's a stretch. I mean, the other thing I see when I look at this design is it has so much negative space in its shoulders. Like, it looks like it should have a missile rack there or something like that, Yeah.
It doesn't look like a heavy mech. It looks like a medium.
No, absolutely, but like an SRM-6 or something.
This thing is absurd.
Oh my god, I know how they designed this mech. The leg assembly is from the Icarus too.
Oh, it totally is.
The foot up to the knee, the hip's different, but other than that...
I mean, the Icarus was the battlemech designs that the Capellan Confederation secured, so that's an interesting through line.
That explains everything.
I just hope that Catalyst's next big redesign push is the 3075 TRO.
Yeah.
I would not object. because I think there's a lot of mechs that have a lot of potential and just need, one or two more passes to just really make them shine. But to get back to the stats for this 3i, it's got a movement profile of 5'8". We've already covered the weaponry, and it's got 10 single heat sinks and 20 shots for that AC-10.
And it is a 65-ton heavy. I don't know if we covered that already.
Yes, all of these are 65 tons.
Besides the fact it's Cellular and Sin, it's not bad.
Yeah, the stats are not terrible, especially for the era. It's a neat little medium to heavy mech, filling that role, because as we have discussed in previous episodes, this is the era where those frameworks or definitions are being established, so who knows if 65 was medium or heavy at the time. But it fills that more mobile, heavier hitter role that the Firebee just can't, and it's not bad. On paper, when you're just looking at the stats, this is not a bad mech.
Yeah, just don't look at the photo.
I don't think we've covered it yet. It is a lot like the Dragon in terms of kind of mission profile.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have not covered the Dragon yet. That is going to be a little bit further down the line. We actually have...
quite a few mechs, because we have to get through all Star League, and then through a couple of clan mechs, I think.
Oh, yeah, that's... Yeah, the Dragon is quite a while. So we have that to look forward to on the far distant future.
We'll get in there.
But for the long-term players or people who are familiar with the Dragon from MechWarrior Online or HBS, this Koschei is very similar in mission profile.
Mm-hmm.
65 tons, 5'8", an AC-10, 2 medium lasers. It's a fast striker, skirmisher, flanker.
Yeah, so this guy was first seen in 2504 and was quickly distributed to all the Liao house units, but as time marched on, it was slowly outclassed and then regulated to garrison units. It's got a battle value of 1255 and a point value of 31. Then we come to the Ksc-3l, a model intended to improve the long-range firepower, but had little success and would often be less effective than the original model. This guy debuted in 2634. So this guy keeps the movement profile of 5'8". The large laser and the medium laser are in the right torso, and the LRM-15 is in the left arm.
And I think I like this guy a little bit better than the 3i. I know it doesn't have an autocannon for Chandler.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. You need the whoosh.
I just like the flexibility.
The flexibility of the missile rack is a little bit more versatile than the autocannon.
Yeah, and you're still that large laser on there, so your total potential firepower goes up.
Mm-hmm. Heat can be more of an issue, I think, but a good pilot can walk that line.
Yeah, I mean, if you alpha, you're toasty. But as long as you're kind of managing your weapons and kind of volley firing, you'll be okay. You'll definitely be sweating, but you'll be okay.
So this guy's got a battle value of 1384 and a point value of 34. And next we come to the 4i, an upgrade to the 3i, first seen in 2719, but this upgrade lacked the increased firepower needed to make it a coveted model. This guy has the traditional movement profile of 5'8". It's got 10 double heat sinks. In the right torso it's got a medium laser and a medium pulse laser. In the left torso it's got a medium laser and a medium pulse laser. And in the left arm it's got an LB-10X AC. And it's got 10 slugs and 10 cluster shots for that guy. Also has endosteel and ferro to help, free up some weight.
And it's got case in the left torso.
Yes.
Yeah, so this guy, I think, is a very good improvement over the original 3i.
Oh, yeah. This one's definitely a lot scarier. But, I mean, that's what you get when you start saving the tonnage with endosteel and ferro. You even got some more armor in there for boot.
And taking advantage of your 10 free heat sinks by upgrading them to double.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely not overheating with this guy.
I think my main problem with this is it doesn't really seem to have a bracket it wants to get into. I guess maybe a short-range brawler with a little bit of plinking by the LB-10.
Yeah, the LB-10's just there to engage as you're moving in, and then once you're in, you can pound on them with the 10, you can hit them with the lasers. Gives you a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And it's always good to have a long-range weapon, even if, let's say this thing had a LB-20 and had, a large laser. Yeah, those are weapons that don't match in range band, but you need that ranged weapon, because not everyone's going to want to get close to you, and you're not going to always be able to get close. And so that's kind of what the LB-10 does for the laser complement on this mech. It gives it some...
So this guy's got a battle value of 1516 and a point value of 39. And keeping with the IL tradition that we're going to see throughout this entire model with only 2 exceptions, we have the 4L, the second attempt at a fire support that first debuted in 2723. This guy basically keeps it the same as the previous L, but upgrades 2 pulses and adds Artemis 4, as well as keeping all the weight saving bonuses of Endo and Pharaoh. It also has the case, which is a nice thing to see. So 5-8 movement, large pulse laser in the right torso, medium pulse laser in the right torso, and an Artemis 4 LRM-15 left arm. Keeps the 10 heat sinks, but they are still doubles like the previous 4. So yeah, this is definitely better. I don't know. It doesn't strike me as a amazing fire support mech, but it strikes me as a good line support mech, if I'm making sense.
Yeah, I mean, I see it kind of as a generalist. It can do a little bit of support with that Artemis, and then in medium and short range, it's got those large pulse lasers where it can really kind of tear things up.
Yeah, I think I'd rather see like an ER large laser or just a regular large laser instead of large pulse and kind of dedicate it more towards long range engagements, but definitely a straight upgrade from the 3L.
So this guy's got a battle value of 1503 and a point value of 41. Then we come to the 5MC, the Canopian version, first seen in 3068 after the plans were shared as part of the Trinity Alliance. This guy has the 5-8 movement profile. It's got a snub-nose PPC in the right torso, 5 ER small lasers in the left torso, 1 ER large laser in the right arm, and a rotary AC5 in the left arm. It's got 60 shots with that Rack 5, keeps the Endo Steel but switches from Pharaoh to Light Pharaoh, and it's got 14 double heat sinks. So this guy really has the 2 ranges, long and short.
It's very eclectic.
I like how the snub-nose PPC is useful in both range brackets.
Yeah, I really like this mech, especially because we bring back the autocannon. Always a good touch. But definitely a good all-rounder. Small cockpit's a bit of a letdown, but, you gotta make some sacrifices.
I feel like this is some sort of bizarre MechWarrior Online meme build.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really seem to know what it wants to do or how it wants to do it. Like those 5 ER small lasers should make it quite deadly and close, but then it's also got an ER large laser for sniping, a snub that doesn't really snipe, but is really good short range profile in classic Battletech, and then that rotary AC5, which is just lots of fun DACA. It feels really eclectic to me, and I'm not sure what it wants to be doing.
I feel like what it wants to do is charge at the enemy and get in range of those ER small lasers and just DACA the entire time forward.
The answer to what it wants to do is yes.
Yeah.
Wants to do everything.
I was going to say, I like a good generalist mech, but a good generalist mech will generally have a couple weapons that match up in a certain profile, a couple weapons that match up in another profile, and then, some stuff to round it out like SRMs with Inferno or machine guns to kill infantry. This guy he's trying to be a generalist, but he doesn't know how he wants to do it.
So he's got a battle value of 1764 and a point value of 42. We then come to the 5I, seen in 3071, and this guy goes...
Well, first off, this is the Resurrected Koshai in the Capellan Confederation, the one that didn't fit with Zhenxing, so it wound up getting dumped on the mercenary market.
Yeah, so this guy is kind of a redesign as well, because he's got a movement profile of 585, so adds in jump jets, has 13 double heat sinks, and has a Guardian ECM suite in the center torso, a snub-nose PPC in the right torso, keeps those 5 ER small lasers in the left torso, and has a heavy PPC in the left arm. It also has Endo Steel, Light Pharaoh, and an XL fusion engine.
So the XL is kind of a bummer, but the heavy PPC instead of an ER large and a rotary makes this guy feel much more like he knows what he wants to do, and that's mid-range, paired fire with that heavy PPC and snub nose, and then if somebody gets in close, he's got all those ER small lasers just to light them up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the fact that this has no weapon system that relies on ammunition is also probably a real good selling point for mercenaries who are, watching their ammunition budget, or, guerrilla fighters.
Well, and for me, the other nice thing is the heavy PPC is 15 points of damage and a fairly long-range weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Then you go to those 5 ER smalls, and inside the heavy PPC's short-range bracket, you've got 5 of them, so they're still doing 15 points of damage total. So you're always shooting your snub, and then you just switch between your heavy PPC and your 5 ER smalls, depending on which range bracket the enemies are in. So this guy just feels more flexible to me.
Definitely a good flexible mech.
And you could even vent some heat that way, because the 5 only generate 10, where the heavy generates 15.
Yeah, but as long as you're not alpha striking, you're probably going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't alpha strike, if you fire your snub nose and your heavy together, you're gaining 5 heat plus your movement. If you're firing your snub and your ER smalls, you're gaining 20 heat plus your movement heat.
Yeah.
It's got 13 double heat sinks, so it can sink 26. If you fire both PPCs and walk, you'll be neutral.
I must be looking at the wrong record sheet, because I'm only seeing 10 double heat sinks.
I'm seeing 13.
On the eye, 5i.
How many do you see?
I see 10 doubles. Did I grab the wrong record sheet?
Anyway, so this guy's got a battle value of 1964 and a point value of 41. And then we come to the other exception in the naming convention, the 5X. This model was designed for urban combat and even adds a claw for melee attacks, produced in 3075. It's got a movement profile of 585, so it's keeping those jump jets. Has the Guardian ECM suite, a medium pulse laser in the center torso, a large pulse laser in the right arm, 2 ER medium lasers in the left torso, and a claw in the right arm and the left arm. Still has that endo steel and an XL fusion engine and light ferro. And this guy has 11 double heat sinks.
I'm not sure how to feel about this one.
I mean, ECM's always good. Claws are fun. Rawr.
I haven't actually had a chance to play with those yet.
They do more damage on the punch, but it's a little bit harder to hit. I mean, it's a +1 to your hit, so it's a little bit of a trade-off, but...
Okay.
It's got all of its weapons torso mounted, so it can punch with both hands in every attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, this seems like a good little urban fighter.
Yeah, this is definitely not a mech you want to just pop up behind you.
So this guy's got a battle value of 1554 and a point value of 38. And then we come to the last mech on our list today, the Ksc-3l. And this guy is another redesign. It's dropping those jump jets. It's got a movement profile of 5'8", but it has TSM, so it can go 6'9" when it is nice and toasty. This guy was first seen in a 3105, and he also has a targeting computer in the head, 4 medium lasers in the right torso, and a sniper cannon in the left arm. It's got 12 double heat sinks, endo steel, and case 2 and light ferro.
I like it, except for the TSM. I think it's a waste on a mech with an artillery cannon.
Yeah, it's this is definitely an oddity, because a sniper cannon is not a weapon system you see very often.
Yeah.
That said, it's the first mech we've seen where the bore matches the weapon matches the art.
This is true.
Yeah.
Well, and so it's a sniper cannon, not a sniper artillery. So this isn't the multi-map sheet shooting sniper artillery piece. This is the cut-down sniper that's used like an autocannon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still a direct fire weapon with kind of standard range brackets rather than a map sheet range bracket.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you're still not able to directly target the mech, or whatever you're shooting at.
Yes, you can. It's a sniper cannon.
Because it's direct and ballistic. Yeah, it's the DB denotes direct ballistic, and then the AE denotes a second mode, I'm assuming for area effect. It has been a while since I read those rules, so if I am incorrect, please correct me.
Yeah, because as I recall, cannons are the ones that they're basically souped up autocannons in the way they function. Oh, let me go grab total fair.
Yeah, I'm digging through it right now.
Is it in TAC Ops or is it in
TAC Ops 284, so 290 artillery. Yeah, so it's essentially a snub-nosed version of the whatever the named version is. So like a sniper cannon is a sawn-off sniper artillery piece. They're still resolved in the same fashion as indirect LRM fire, I think, if I'm reading this correctly.
Okay, so you would have like the direct fire LRM and then the indirect fire, and so the sniper cannon has the direct fire and the indirect fire.
Okay, where is it in TAC Ops?
Page 285.
Artillery cannons. Artillery cannons are classified as ballistic weapons rather than artillery weapons, and may not be used to deliver indirect artillery attacks. They're resolved in the same fashion as indirect LRM fire, but deliver damage to both the target's hex and all adjacent hexes. Scatter like normal artillery. Half the distance, though. Aerospace uses them as autocannons. Okay. And they can't use the targeting computer.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it still gains the benefit of that mobility because it's not sitting back and launching artillery shells. It's getting up in the fight because it only has a 12 hex range.
Yeah.
It's just that it takes the penalties that indirect LRM fire does.
Mm-hmm. Well, this guy's got a battle value of 1465 and a point value of 43, and it seems like something I'd like to try out on the tabletop once or twice, just to, if not get a feel for this mech, then get a feel for the sniper cannon, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And you could choose a lot worse than this mech for that.
Yeah.
Now, going back to the Koschei 5i,
Mm-hmm.
I dug into it a little bit because the whole 10 heat sinks versus 13 double heat sinks seemed weird to me. And I believe it's a typo on the record sheet because there is not enough internal space to fit light ferro, endo, all the equipment, and that many double heat sinks.
Okay.
It's got the tonnage too, but it doesn't have the crit space.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Which leads me to believe that the Koschei was one of the MechWarrior Dark Age mechs, because I know a number of them had weird construction rules that Catalyst had trouble bringing into classic Battletech when they took over.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was also the MWDA stuff that brought in the sniper cannons as opposed to sniper artillery, or cannons, artillery cannons versus straight artillery.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it right now in Mega Mech Lab, and it's saying that it's got 13 heat sinks in the engine.
It would have 10 internal, and then it would need space for an additional 3.
Sorry, say that again. I missed it.
Yeah, because that it's got 10.
Well, the 10 internal heat sinks, yeah.
Well, yeah, but this one's got 13 engine-free heat sinks, is what it's saying, due to the size of the engine, because it's got a 325 XL.
Oh. I'm not super familiar with the engine rules. Do the XL Fusion engines give you more internal heat sinks?
They can. Okay, that's how they're doing it. I didn't realize it was quite that big.
Well, that and going up to a 5.8 gets you the 13. If you go down to a 4.8 or 4.6, you only have a free 10.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, it's still woefully undersynced for if you were to Alpha Strike, but you're not supposed to.
No. Now that we have resolved that, we're going to switch over to pilot profiles. And our first pilot today is Lieutenant Christopher Knight Jr. Trapped on New Avalon during the blockade by the word of Blake, Christopher left the New Avalon Institute of Science to join the One-Eyed Jack's mercenary unit. Piloting a 5i he purchased with the insurance payout from his father's death during the events of Case White, the Jacks welcomed him with open arms and made use of his gifts on and off the battlefield.
Our next pilot is Captain Zanaya Vakariu. Vakariu received the first 5MC when the original recipient, her commander in the 1st Canopian Light Horse, rejected it. Apparently he didn't think he was a good enough pilot, so that's why he passed it on to Captain Zanaya. She dueled a Word of Blake Seraph in the Koschei 5MC, and both mechs traded an incredible amount of damage before she was able to get behind the Seraph, and detonate its ammunition with her PPC.
Good on her.
And the final pilot we have today is Sub-Commander Benson Chung, a lauded and respected member of the 15 Cyan Dragoons. Benson has over a dozen confirmed battle axe kills and was high on the Davian remove list, but he was ultimately killed during the War of Cameron Aggression Confederation, the Reunification War, by the hands of the Taurians, so the Davians missed out on their vengeance.
So I find it interesting that the way they're listed in the TRO has the two newer pilots from the Word of Blake era listed first, and then it goes all the way back to an original 3i pilot with Sub-Commander Benson Chung.
Yeah, the way the TROs list the pilots is definitely not chronological. So, for today's Data Dive, we are going to have a discussion about tactics and how each of us kind of really like to use our forces on the battlefield.
Now, are we going to focus on Classic, or are we going to talk some Alpha Strike as well?
Well, sadly, I think you are the only person who can talk with any sort of authority about Alpha Strike, because I have yet to actually play a game of it.
All right, Classic it is.
And I'm sure we'll have some talk about video games and HBS Battletech in there as well.
Some of them video games.
Yeah, so generally, I mean, this is one of those topics, where do you start? You have a mech force, and what do you do with it? And for me, I really try to have either one of two force deployments. I like to either have a very light force that is able to maneuver quickly, or a stationary force where I will channel my opposition towards me. And it really depends on what sort of mission operations you are doing. Generally, I will also try to use the terrain, because I think we have seen over and over again throughout history that knowing the terrain is a weapon that you can use against your enemy, especially when they don't.
Yeah, for me, I start with the math. That's really what Classic boils down to for me. I mean, like, if I'm playing against clans as Inner Sphere, I know that their short range is always going to be better than my short range. So I'm never going to be able to win a long range engagement with them, even if I'm equipped with, LRMs and PPCs. So I close. And then, I've talked a lot about jumping mechs and how you use those to make the math favorable for yourself. Jumping 5 with a targeting computer means you take a +2 to your shooting, while your enemy takes a +3, that kind of thing. So I'll generally figure out which units do what to optimize their math. So if I've got a scout that jumps 7, he's always going to be jumping. He's going to be trying to get in there close and get behind, backstab, but always be jumping so that he's more difficult to target. Whereas if I've got something with like a C3 network and it's got LRMs or Gauss rifles, then I'll go ahead and hang it back, because the math is better for it, even against clans, if I can get its spotter in close, because then it treats its entire range bracket as short range. So for me, the starting place is always, what's the math? Do I need to rush the enemy to negate his advantage? Do I need to keep the distance open to give myself the best modifiers? Should I be jumping? What is the math to keep my mechs harder to hit and hitting harder than the other guys? What's your starting point, Chandler?
And so let's say I'm building like a lance for a game of Battletech, I try to have a couple of mechs that can do anything. So they can either, do a little bit of sniping or brawl it out in the middle of a melee. But I always want to have 2 mech that are designed to do, they're essentially specialists. So like a long range, like LRM mech. So like a Catapult would be a good example. I always want one that'll be able to do that. But at the same time, I don't want to pigeonhole myself into getting stuck with a certain strategy. So like, let's say I bring an entire group of non-jump capable mechs and then get stuck in a map that has trees and hills and everything possible to make not or ground-bound mechs have a bad day. And so it's always about utility and being able to adapt to what's being thrown at you. And also trying to get that AC-20 right in close to give the good old 1-2 punch to kill.
I was going to say, I thought your starting point was, how many AC-20s do I have?
Yeah.
See, that's for my personal mech.
That's for the command mech.
Yeah.
So now, speaking of catapults, a classic mech design.
Catapults.
Yeah. It's a caterpillar catapult.
Now, I am a fan of the missile boats. I like having a mech that can just sit back and just launch volley after volley of LRM at my opponent, especially if they can be out of line of sight. I know that lots of players are not a fan of missile boats, especially without line of sight, because it is non-interactive for them, but I think that those people probably just rushed my bait mech a little too quickly. That's where I fall on the missile boat and direct fire, sort of LRM. I think it is a absolutely valid strategy. I think it is something that can be used to great effect.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Indirect fire can be very successful. You just have to handle it right.
Craft the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it also helps if you can have some tag to get rid of their movement modifier when you're doing that.
Oh, absolutely.
I've come to the conclusion that if I don't have semi-guided LRMs and tag, I'm just not going to bother with indirect because the numbers tend to be so bad it's not worth it.
That is absolutely true and fair. But this is also, a situation where if I'm going to be setting up a dedicated lance of indirect fire, something's going to be equipped with the tag.
Yeah, and I mean, if you need a tactic to base a lance around, semi-guided LRMs are the way to go because they will rip anything apart. As long as you can hit that tag shot. You can hit that tag shot, you are golden because you just ignore everything.
Mm-hmm.
I think the most insane tag player I've ever seen, he likes to bring 0/0 quality Kage battle armor, the tag variant. And then usually it's his other units are like urban mechs with arrow 4.
This mad lad.
And then he forward deploys his Kage with hovercraft and VTOLs. And then he doesn't do any shooting other than tag and arrow 4.
The absolute mad lad.
And it's just absurd because he'll be like, oh, you have a VTOL that's got a +7 modifier. Cool. I'm shooting at it with 0/0 battle armor at short range, and it says it's battle armor. They don't take a movement penalty for their own shooting. So I need a 7 or better, and I'm shooting you with 3 Kage tags. Cool. There's a hit. An arrow force wings in out of nowhere and smashes this VTOL with 20 points of damage.
Just swats it out of the air.
Yeah, that'll ruin any mech's day, and heaven forbid your VTOL get hit by that.
Yeah, VTOLs are not particularly robust in their armor because you have to, of course, move all that armor into the air.
Yeah, you gotta do the flappy flaps.
Mm-hmm. So now the other tactic thing I think we should talk about is battle armor and vehicles, and that's a fantastic segue from your story there, Josh. So I have actually recently got a chance to play with some battle armor and a Maxim transport this last week with the WolfNet community, and it is a lot of fun to shoot those things around. And though a lot of my battle armor got stepped on, it was a neat learning experience, and I look forward to playing with them some more because as much as the giant stompy robots are the bread and butter of Battletech, the vehicles and the battle armor are really cool and really flesh out the world, and so if we get to play with it more on the table, I'm excited.
Yeah, I play with a fair amount of vehicles and battle armor in my classic Battletech because for me it's not a real war game unless you're playing with the full combined arms, and it definitely changes the way you play the game because vehicles tend to be more fragile, especially hovers, and then infantry as well. But then you can start doing cool stuff like having capture the bunker missions, or if you got a fast mover with some sort of battle armor attached and that battle armor has really good firepower, you can really surprise somebody like, oh, hey, here comes a Maxim hover tank, or a, I can't think of the clan one, Tamerlane strike sled.
The bandit, whether you're the N-Sphere or clan variant.
Yeah. But here comes a Tamerlane or a bandit, and out comes 5 Corona battle armor. And if you guys think coronavirus is bad, you haven't faced Corona battle armor.
I'd prefer to face neither, thank you very much.
Yeah, neither.
Standard Corona battle armor has a medium pulse laser on each suit.
Ooh.
And something else as well. And then I think it's a light recoilless rifle. And then the SRM variant, each suit has an SRM-5 and I think it's a recoilless rifle or a machine gun.
Recoilless rifle and a flamer and an auto rifle.
So you shove star of those guys out of a fast mover like the Tamerlane, and suddenly your enemies have to deal with a SRM-25 in the middle of the board where there was nothing there a turn before.
Mm-hmm.
And then for hovers, that's my favorite vehicle, they really changed the battlefield dynamic because they ignore water features. They treat it like open terrain. So you might be used to playing with just mechs and if your enemy's on this side with a bunch of units and they have to cross all this water, you're like, okay, I don't have to deal with them yet because they're going to take forever. But if they're hover tanks, boom, they're across that water in a single turn and getting into your flank. So
yeah, I was able to load up a Maxim with some LRM troops and just shot them across a lake and dumped the troops into a small bluff of trees that opened up into the opponent's rear. And, going 12 in a Maxim hover tank will take you far.
Yeah, definitely. And something you can do that's really cheeky in classic Battletech with bandits, namely the Bandit C, is you can fit 2 squads of battle armor on it because you shove one inside in a troop capacity, and then since it's an Omni vehicle, you could put one on the outside. And so, let's say it's the Corona heavy battle armor, you could shove 2 squads of those behind someone and just be like, hello, welcome to 10 medium pulse lasers or 10 SRM5s, you name it, whatever you wanted behind them is now behind them. You can get really cheeky if you want to be that person.
Mm-hmm.
It's another reason why I really like the Marauder battle armor, because they have mag clamps and they've got decent firepower. A great way to think of them is as a SRM3 per suit, because it's two support PPCs and a light recoilless rifle. Works out to basically being a single SRM missile for each of those weapons. So each suit is basically an SRM3, and they can mag clamp onto anything, anything except aerospace, obviously. And this is where it's really funny. You can put a squad of up to 6 at 1.5 tons each, mag clamped to a Savannah Master, which is a 5-ton hover, and you can put up to 9 tons of battle armor on it with these Marauders.
Oh no.
And then race it across the board and drop it off. And yeah, just having infantry on the board, especially infantry at least, it really changes the dynamics, because then you can start having, there's one I did where we were trying to capture a crashed drop ship.
Mm-hmm.
Like one side was trying to race up to protect it because that was their reinforcements, and the other side was trying to get up there and capture it to prevent the reinforcements from disembarking and joining the fight. And that's just not something you can do when all you're playing with is battle mechs. You have to have something like battle armor or regular infantry.
Yeah, because a mech cannot secure a building. It can destroy a building, but it can't secure a building.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's something I'd like to play with more in Wolf's Net. Going off a little bit on tangent with that one, but it's always been a struggle time-wise, and I'm sure a lot of people also run into this one with just classic Battletech in general, where you want to use all these fancy things like battle armor and infantry and VTOLs and artillery, but at a certain point you're bogging yourself down so much in little things that it almost becomes not worth it. And so you have to really pick your battles with, okay, like this time I'm going to bring cheeky sled number 3 with 2 Corona battle armors, or this time I'm going to bring, all of the artillery Urbies and Kage tag suits, or, whatever cheeky play you're going to do that's not mechs this week. You definitely have to try to pick your battles, because if you try to bring it all at once, you're just going to bog yourself down.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And that's one of the great things about Alpha Strike and why I've switched to it, and why I'm really looking forward to focusing on playing the 350 format the WNRP guys set up, is because it integrates the different parts of that so much better. Artillery works much more smoothly. Infantry plays basically like any other unit, except it ignores crits. Yeah, you can do all of that and have it a reasonable game length with reasonable play speed. So
yep. And like with any game system, the more you play with the units, the more familiar you're going to become with them, the more you use the rule sets, or the less you have to check the books. And so the more we play with all the toys we love, the better we'll get. And while we get better, I think a really good resource to use is Megamech, because it does a lot of the heavy lifting and it can hold your hand for a lot of things.
Megamech really needs an Alpha Strike version, though.
I believe that's called Tabletop Simulator.
Sure.
Our sources for today are Sarna, Battletech Battlemech Manual, Master Unit List, TROs 3075, Record Sheets 3075 Unabridged Age of War, and Record Sheets 3045 New Tech, New Upgrades. We are supported by our Patreons at patreon.com/on the Origin of Battlemechs. Our social media on Twitter is at Origin of Mechs. We also have a dedicated channel on the Everything Battletech Discord. Feel free to stop by and say hi. If you have any questions, requests for topics, or wish to contact us, our email is ontheoriginofbattlemechs@gmail.com. If you enjoy the show, I encourage you to let your friends know about us and to leave a review. Special thanks to my friend Laura for the intro and outro. Class dismissed. Everybody have a great day.
Peace out, mech warriors.
Stay safe out there.
Module complete. System standby. Would you like to load the next module?
Apparently I'm saying a lot tonight.